I will offend someone by this teaching, by the way. And I think everyone would agree that communication is the number one issue that creates offenses. Sometimes an action will offend someone, but most of the time it's extremely poor communication that causes offenses. And this teaching's been a long time coming. We're going to do this a long time ago. So in all my notes, I've kind of put them together. And so if I'm going to try not to read this, but it's going to be more like I'm reading because so many notes. I'm probably the biggest offender when it comes to communication. I try real hard to rearrange my words or expressions to communicate my true feelings towards situations and people to head off a possible offensive communication issue. One of these issues to me is the wrong use of the word or the expression, I'm sorry. Some people often unconsciously apologize to communicate an image of kindness and concern, whereas others typically resist apologizing unless the act feels warranted. This in itself, let me hear, this in it, sorry. Uh, Sorry, I got distracted there. This in itself can be very offensive if not communicated right. Just like what I've been doing throughout the show, you've been noticing I've been slipping in the phrase "I'm sorry" into the conversation. Sometimes as a real apology, other times as a mere transitional or buffer phrase. Unfortunately, this habit, in my opinion, confuses listeners and discredits the speaker. The Urban Dictionary definition says that it is a phrase carelessly thrown about by people who want to lessen their guilt. It does not actually show that they care about the person they hurt. My research shows that women in general, often say, I'm sorry as a way of showing concern, empathy, and understanding. If you've seen me very much on any of the shows, I rarely separate women and men because these days I think it's pretty general. You can find as many women that offense over the same thing as men do, vice versa. In general, women say I'm sorry as a way of showing concern, empathy, and understanding. The term is used to indicate their personal connection, appreciation of a problem, and sense of care and closeness. I'm sorry functions for women as shorthand for I'm with you. You and I are on the same page. Also, women, this is my research. I'm just going by research of what I've seen. Women's use of I'm sorry to express affinity and compassion is understandable and often even admirable, but it can be quite bad in many situations. For example, suppose your boss or colleague said, our client is upset, or we just lost that account, or our presentation went badly. Responding to remarks with I'm sorry can suggest that you are in some way responsible for things having gone wrong, or at a minimum, you are clueless about the seriousness of the situation. If you've had nothing to do with the mishap, you should avoid I'm sorry and focus instead on how things can be put right, perhaps by saying something like this. I have an idea of how we can calm this person down, or how can we make sure that doesn't happen again. And in workplaces, it's actually a lot more prevalent to make sure your communication is set specifically in a situation. In life, in general, situations where you are in no way responsible, find a way to direct the conversation towards fixing the problem or changing matters going forward. However you respond, don't appear to be apologizing by saying, I'm sorry. There are, of course, situations in which saying I'm sorry is perfectly appropriate as an expression of sympathy and solidarity. For example, saying I'm sorry that this issue has happened to you, or even better, is there anything I can do to help? May be the best thing you can say when a friend tells you they suffer a recent injury or have been sick. Uh, to me, a lot of times, and I know most of us have been through this, is when somebody has gone through a tragedy, saying, I know, I'm sorry, I know how you feel, is the exact opposite of what you say, want to say, because each situation is so different, especially in a tragedy. These types of bad news situations are very different from those that involve someone's personal screw up. With these unfortunate and faultless circumstances, using other words that are synonymous to sorry is likely to be helpful and very much appreciated. Words and or expressions like that makes me sad, or that makes me unhappy, or that makes me heavy hearted or mournful, can be much more appreciated by the person you're talking to and a lot less offensive. You could also say something like, this is distressing. And go on with how you feel about that, or an example of what you might say, or I'm grieved over your situation. And once again, explain how you're grieved through that. To me, is a lot less offensive, and it really expresses how you truly do feel. But by saying I'm sorry for this can go off into a thousand different scenarios. You should always be ready to comfort someone in their time of distress, but not at the expense of bad communication. Oh my gosh, can you believe this? Believe it or not. Let me turn my phone down. So sorry. I usually do this. Okay. Um, there's a third type of situation in which saying I'm sorry may not raise a doubt about your culpability, comprehension, or competence, but which is nevertheless a weak response. For example, suppose someone says it's raining. In this type of situation, a response other than I'm sorry is likely to be far more appreciated and appropriate. The best appropriate is to cast things in a more positive light or offer a possible solution. Saying something like the following might be useful and appreciated. I hear the weather will be better tomorrow. Somebody says it's raining. Say I'm sorry. And I believe it or not, I do get this response from a lot of people, immediately my thought is, might want to find a different way to express yourself. The existence of these different types of situations should make it clear that saying I'm sorry should hardly be used as a universal response when matters are not as one might wish them to be. Yet many people use the phrase as if it were a universal solvent, just like I was saying, the appropriate response, no matter what the cause occurrence. I would be remiss, though, if I did not bring out the antithesis to this issue, that of not ever saying I'm sorry or even apologizing for anything. I once knew a woman who taught her young boy to never say the word sorry for any reason. I couldn't respond to her. She's talking to her son. It's her son, and this is the way she taught him. I knew this person very well. We were very close, but this is just something that I couldn't respond to. She told him that he would be portrayed as weak and people would take advantage of him his whole life. This requires a response such as, I am very disheartened by this, and definitely not, I'm sorry for you. I've known many people in my life who would not say the word sorry or apologize. I try to take notice and learn from who they are and how this has affected their lives. And then there's the ones who require an apology, usually in for being sorry for an offense they've incurred, supposedly at your hands. For instance, and this actually is the example that many months ago when we were doing the series on offense, and Sandy had asked me to do another one, another segment. This is the first thing that came to my mind and actually sparked this whole research and notes that I've done on this. Is that there was a time that we had met this couple, and they were a super couple. We loved them. And but as we got to know them, we would find that the wife of this couple, husband and wife couple, was becoming somewhat manipulative, and really thought that she could control situations. And so as we learn this, we stand back and learn this. And one time at a Torah study that we were having, I expressed, because as you know, I'm very verbal about a lot of things, and I expressed how I felt. She stopped me when we took a break, and was confronting me over whether or not I should have said it the way that I said it. And I said, well, I'm sure that's the way you feel. So that's the way you feel. And I walked away from her. Well, a little bit later, she confronted me again, and I confronted her back and just said, I'm not going to apologize for this, and you should back off. And I actually did it quite loud, and it embarrassed her. It offended her in front of our whole group. And I just told her, you need to back off. And she pushed me out of the way, and I left. I didn't want to get into the confrontation, so I left the whole group as it was. Well, they called us over to their house, and they demanded that I apologize for what I did, and I wouldn't do it. I literally would not say I'm sorry, and I would not apologize for what I did. The confrontation was hers. And that's what I'm saying. There are people at times that are going to be offended by things that they're going to be offended by. It doesn't mean that it's your fault, and you do not have to be sorry for that. You can pray for this person, do whatever you need to do for it. But remember, you absolutely do not have to apologize for something that you are not at fault with. This is my opinion. If you're offended by that, then be offended by it. I'm actually not going to say I'm sorry for that. Okay. Also, my research showed that some women's tendency to utilize "I'm sorry" so pervasively is often due to their having internalized the common gender stereotype that women should be kind, caring, and concerned about other people. Hence, saying "I'm sorry" is a way for those women to present themselves as quintessential feminine. And I have to say that this is my opinion, in that in the same way this woman was pushing me to say, I'm sorry, my wife and I both talked later, it was a way of her equalizing who we were as a man and woman. And, I'm sorry, it's a stereotype that there you go. I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it is a stereotype, is the way I should word this, because I don't believe that women and men are that much different when it comes down to. The problem is men, on the other hand, typically resist saying I'm sorry, and they don't even want to apologize for things. So there is a difference between men and women in a lot of different ways, of even being offended. A lot of men will be offended and not address the issue. A lot of women will be offended and address the issue. So, the confrontation there is a back and forth. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is any difference between the two. And yet there is a lot of difference between the two. I'm sure Sandy and Sherry would have a lot to respond to all of that. My final words is apologize to the right person. Placing your regret on public display makes you appear vulnerable, weak, and lacking in confidence. A mistake is not a crime, and shame is not an appropriate emotional response. Context is always important. Consider the position, gender, and personality of the person to whom you are apologizing. Just because the situation is difficult, don't put off the apology or give it an excessive, over subservient way or in an offhand or half-hearted manner. An appropriate apology is always welcome when it is called for, but use "I'm sorry" as an expression of concern and sympathy when no fault is involved. And when you intend to use the term as an apology, only turn to it when you are the one who needs to make amends. I'm sorry if this teaching has offended you, because maybe you should look into why you are offended by this teaching or being offended by anything. It was meant to give you awareness of our words and expressions. Don't let others influence you. Be yourself. There you go.
That was good, Mark. And you're right. As a pastor, I found that we have to say, I'm sorry, or people want that from us all the time. And whether we've done anything or haven't done anything, and it's normally the latter, but that they want that. I'm telling you, and that goes back to our previous shows, offense, at least from a congregational setting, is people are they have it sitting on their shoulder ready to bloom. But I remember telling Jonathan, Jonathan is, and you're right when you said gender roles. Men, in my experience, men do have issues with saying, I'm sorry, or apologizing, even when they're flat out wrong. But I've raised Jonathan in a different way, and I may be incorrect, but I've always gone by the philosophy, be the first to apologize or say I'm sorry, and the first to forgive. And it will deflate issues that might arise. And that young man, I have never, he is always, when he messes up, boom, he's right there. It may take 5 minutes, but it won't take much more than that. And that's one of the beautiful things about him that others have even noted. He is just so good at that. And it honestly, it is made, I think, from the world's perspective, maybe it would make him look weak, but in actuality, for the people that are around him, it's helped him. Now, maybe that's incorrect, because maybe there's times he shouldn't do that, or we shouldn't do that. And so I'm not, so I don't know. Honestly, I honestly don't know, because I'm one of those people that always says those words.
Yeah.
Sometimes for comfort. Everything that you said, that was me. That is me. I use those words constantly, especially as a pastor when I'm dealing with people. And now I might say, I'm sorry that you heard it that way, but that's not what was said. And
What, but remember, there are synonymous words. There are words that you don't have to use. Sorry, you can learn the synonymous words that communicate how the right way to say those things rather than using the word sorry.
you
Because
know what they say? They go, you weren't truly sorry because you're trying to find other
you
words.
know, yeah, as my advice to you, Sandy,
I
because we
agree.
know each other, my advice to you as a pastor is to not worry about the offense and somebody leaving. Every person that leaves because of an offense, the Lord will bring three in their place.
Yeah, it's a good
Okay.
teaching, and it preaches to me. I like I said, I'm one of those, so I'm thinking about it because I do,
Yeah.
and I'll use apologize, and I do use synonymous words at times too. But I've
Yeah.
always found the most effective for controlling, not controlling is the wrong word, for for deflating the feelings and the emotions of the situation are those words. But I'm going to try more
Good.
because I use it. So
That's the
guilty.
reason. That's the reason for this teaching, is to make you like the teaching I did at Sukkot. I taught on why we believe what we believe. It's totally to get you to think about your situation and analyze who you are and what you're doing, and let's do it better. Not that we're doing anything wrong, but we can all do better. So, very good. Thanks. I appreciate your input on that big time. Sherry, what do you think? You're muted.
Sorry.
So if
No.
you're going to yell at me, then maybe you should go ahead and mute. Go ahead. No.
Oh, I'm not going to yell at you. I think you are right in making the point that sorry is kind of a catch-all word, and it can have very different meanings in different situations. And what's the word? Are you sorry? Does that mean you're repenting for what you did and you're trying to make amends? Or are you grieved over something, sad? Are you sad that that happened? Um, what are some of the other words? Do you regret doing that or whatever it was, or do you regret that that happened? So it can have a lot of different meanings, but we use it kind of as a catch-all word depending on the situation, you know. And so that's a good point because instead of using a catch-all word, uh, use more of a pointed synonym that really pinpoints what you're meaning. Like, well, I really regret that you, or, whatever, I'm sad that you heard it that way, or I regret that you heard it that way. That was not my intention, or, whatever.
Well, that's that
Um,
for instance, like what's happened
but
to you lately. Saying I'm sorry. I know what you're going through. That type of thing. I would never say that, but I'm saddened by your situation, and it's disheartening to me. And I'm praying over you and your family. That type of thing is a much better response than saying I'm so sorry for you, because that word sorry doesn't really mean that in that situation.
yeah. And I mean, we had that, but I knew, what people
Sure, of
meant.
course.
They were regretful. They were, very sympathetic towards us and about the situation. And so, it is what it is what I tell them. It is what it is, but God is faithful.
Amen.
So, um, but that is, I'd never thought about it in those terms, Mark. I'm glad you made that point that it can be a catch all phrase so we can hone in more, you know, um, on what we're really trying to say. And I think about it, and I'm bad about saying, "Well, I'm really sorry," da 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 da. or I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And I mean, well, I wasn't trying to give offense. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, we need to expand our horizons, I guess you'd say.
Amen.
We need to
Amen.
expand how we use that word, because it can be offensive. I've seen people say, "Well, I'm sorry." Are you really? It's like, whoa, I'm going over here while they figure that one out. I'll be over here.
True.
So
Very true. Very good. Very good. You're muted, Sam.
Great topic. Of course, like you've said before, this topic could go for a while, but I love what you said today. It was really, really, as it always is, it was really good, and it speaks a lot. Is there anything you want to wrap it up with?
No, simply that, as with everything, we need to take a look at what we're living in our lives, what we're saying, especially communication. We really need to watch our words. We need to watch our expressions. We need to not be influenced by the world around us and allow the world to to express to us what we should be saying or doing. We should be ourselves. We should analyze ourselves. We should, once again, understand why we believe the things that we believe. Why are we saying the things that we say, and not just be flippant about anything. Life is serious. It doesn't last long, especially me looking at it at 66 years old. I'm saying, man, I've done a lot of things that I regret. I really do. I regret a lot of the things I've done in my life that I wish that I wouldn't have been so flippant on. And a lot of those are my words in conversation. And I don't ever mean to offend anyone, even though I come from a family that was highly offensive. They were very arrogant and just didn't care who they offended. That's the way I grew up. That's the way I've lived my life. And I have a brother who could care less if he offends you. He's going to say whatever he wants to say, and that's my life. And I don't want to be that way. That's not the way the Lord wants me. That's not the way the Lord wants you. So my bottom line is, please analyze how you're communicating with people and how you're living your life, and look over it and figure out what's right and do that. Do the word of God. Don't just do what the world influences you to do and say.
It's good. That's
Bottom line.
good.
in line with what you're saying, Mark, the word says, Yeshua tells us that we're going to be judged for every word we speak.
That's right. That's fact.
And I prayed, oh Lord, please erase some of them words. So because they a lot of people don't realize this, but our words produce either good or bad. How we speak, what we say, and they're very powerful. The universe was spoke into existence by one verse. Spoken.
That's right.
So
That's right.
a lot of power in our mouths.
That's exactly right.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.